A Map of Thought, Episode 1, Aristotle. Here is a question worth sitting with for a second before we start. Why would anyone in 2026 spend 12 minutes on a man who died more than 2,000 years ago? Here is why. Every time a company argues in public about who it actually exists to serve, its shareholders or its employees or its customers, it is fighting a fight that Aristotle mapped out first. Every time someone tells you to calm down and find balance, without realizing that balance is not the same as splitting the difference, they are quoting him without knowing it. And the word economy sitting in your news feed right now, that word is his invention, more or less. Understanding Aristotle is not a history assignment. It is picking up a tool you are already using every day without knowing where it came from.
So let us start with the man himself. Who was he, quickly?
Born 384 before the Common Era, in a small town called Stagira, son of a royal physician. Sent to Athens at 17 to study under Plato for 2 decades. Later hired to tutor a teenage boy who would grow up to conquer most of the known world, Alexander the Great. Eventually came back to Athens and opened his own school, the Lyceum, where he taught while walking, pacing back and forth under covered walkways, which is why his students got nicknamed the Peripatetics, the walkers. That detail is not just trivia. Aristotle believed you understood the world by watching it closely first, and only then building theory. Not the other way around. That habit shapes everything we are about to cover.
Let us get into the first big idea then. You mentioned balance a moment ago.
Right, the doctrine of the mean, probably his single most useful idea, and one that gets garbled constantly. People hear it as just split the difference, find the middle ground. That is not it at all. Take courage. Aristotle says courage sits between two failures. Too little courage is cowardice, running from every danger, even when standing your ground would be right. Too much courage tips into recklessness, charging into danger with no regard for real risk. The genuinely courageous person feels fear when fear makes sense, and still acts rightly anyway. And here is the part people miss. That middle point is not a fixed formula, the same for everyone. What counts as courageous for a seasoned soldier in an actual battle is completely different from what counts as courageous for someone giving their first difficult presentation at work. The structure stays the same. The content shifts with the person and the moment.
Give us something even more everyday than a battlefield.
Think about a manager giving feedback. One failure mode, the manager who never says anything hard, lets real problems slide for months because confrontation feels uncomfortable. Nobody improves because nobody hears the truth. The opposite failure mode, the manager who criticizes constantly, bluntly, publicly, mistaking harshness for honesty. Their team stops trying because nothing is ever good enough. The skilled manager sits in the middle, not by being lukewarm, but by being direct and caring at the same time. Honest feedback, delivered at the right moment, calibrated to the actual person in front of them. Aristotle called that skill phronsis, practical wisdom. Notice how directly that maps onto modern management advice about caring personally while challenging directly. We did not improve on this idea in 2,000 years. We just renamed it.
Did the Greeks themselves even agree on what courage looked like, though? It feels like the kind of thing that would vary a lot.
It varied enormously, which is exactly the point. Sparta raised its boys inside a brutal state system, taken from their families around age 7, deliberately underfed, drilled constantly in combat, taught that retreat was worse than death. Spartan mothers were said to send sons off with the line, "Come back carrying your shield," or carried on it. That is courage as pure endurance for the group, and it was built to control a much larger enslaved population through constant, visible military readiness. Athens, where Aristotle actually lived, raised its citizens differently, mixing physical training with music, poetry, and public debate, prizing a more reasoned, deliberate kind of courage, weighed out loud in the assembly before anyone acted. Same virtue, same word, two genuinely different neighboring cities building it in almost opposite ways. That is exactly why Aristotle insisted the mean depends on the person and the moment, not on a fixed formula anyone could copy and paste.
Let us move to the second big idea, the political one. You called humans political animals earlier.
Zoon politiken in the original Greek, and it means something much stronger than office politics. Aristotle's claim is that human beings, uniquely among animals, can reason together about justice and fairness, using language. And because we can do that, we are built by nature to live in community, not in isolation. Someone who could live entirely outside any community, in his view, would have to be either a beast or a god, not fully human in the ordinary sense. He studied over 150 actual Greek city constitutions to work out what made political communities function or fail, and he landed on 6 basic types, sorted by who rules and whether they rule for the common good or for themselves. Rule by one person, done well, is monarchy. Done badly, tyranny. Rule by the few, done well, aristocracy. Done badly, oligarchy. And rule by the many, done well, he called polity. Done badly, he called it democracy.
Wait, democracy is his bad version.
It is, and that single fact should stop you in your tracks. For Aristotle, democracy meant the majority using raw voting power to plunder a minority, with no restraint. His healthy version, polity, meant a system with real guardrails, so the majority could not simply steamroll everyone else. Words drift enormously across history, and this is one of the starkest examples you will ever find. Picture a homeowners association, where the board runs things fairly for everyone. That is monarchy or aristocracy, done well. Now picture the entire membership voting to seize one family's garden for shared use, with no compensation, purely because they have the votes. That, to Aristotle, is democracy in the bad sense. It is a genuinely useful gut check, the next time majority rule and fairness start pulling in different directions.
Now, we cannot talk about Aristotle honestly without talking about where he got things badly wrong.
No, we cannot, and I am not going to soften it. In the Politics, Aristotle argues that some people are, in his words, natural slaves, lacking the rational capacity for self-rule, and therefore supposedly better off ruled by a master. This is not just a description of his society, which was genuinely built on slave labor. It is a philosophical justification for it. And it was contested even in his own lifetime. A rival thinker named Alcidamas argued directly that nature made no one a slave, that it was pure convention and force, nothing natural about it. Aristotle knew the counterargument and rejected it anyway. He also excluded women entirely from citizenship, arguing their capacity for reason existed but lacked, in his phrase, full authority. Worth knowing that his own teacher, Plato, had at least floated the opposite idea, women serving in leadership roles based on ability. Aristotle closed that door again. So hold both facts at once. The same mind that gave us a genuinely brilliant, durable account of virtue also built a philosophical case for slavery and for excluding half the population from public life. That is not a contradiction to explain away. It is a warning about what even a great mind can rationalize when it stops questioning its own era's convenient assumptions.
Let us land this in the present. You promised us a reason this actually matters today.
Here it is. Aristotle's word for household management was oikonomia, household plus law or order. That word became our word economy. And Aristotle drew a sharp line between natural exchange, trading a surplus of olive oil for wool because your household actually needs it, and something he called crematistics, accumulating money purely for its own sake, with no natural stopping point. Fast forward to August 2019, when the Business Roundtable, representing chief executives across some of the largest American companies, publicly broke from decades of pure shareholder primacy and declared that a corporation should serve customers, employees, suppliers, and communities, not shareholders alone. That triggered exactly the backlash you would expect. Several states pushed back hard, arguing companies should focus narrowly on shareholder returns and nothing else. Europe, meanwhile, pushed further in the stakeholder direction. That fight happening in boardrooms and legislatures right now is Aristotle's distinction between natural exchange and pure accumulation, replayed almost word for word, 23 centuries later.
So, what is the actual takeaway someone should walk away with?
A question you can genuinely use. Whenever you are looking at a company, a budget, even your own habits, ask whether the activity still serves some real underlying purpose, or whether the number itself, profit, savings, followers, has quietly become the entire point. That question is Aristotle's, and it still cuts cleanly every single time you use it. Next time, we leave Athens entirely and travel to a very different tradition asking a strikingly similar question. What holds a society together? We meet Confucius in the middle of a collapsing political order, building his answer not around constitutions, but around ritual, harmony, and the relationships that bind people to each other. Same question as today. A completely different answer.
See you then.